Going live! Yes! Oh, my little Lego spaceman fell over. Stand up, you lazy drunk. Or I'll replace you with the red or the pink one. It's not an empty threat, I have those ones too. Hello, welcome to whatever this is. I've just got up, got no writing done yesterday, didn't think I would. Because I was just busy all day. I kind of left home at 8 o'clock and didn't get back until about 9. And I kind of toyed with the idea of doing some writing then, but I was tired and I just didn't, basically. Let's send a test message. Oh, hang on. Stream Manager. Test. Is that working? It is. Fabulous. Right, good. My plan is basically to try and sign off a couple of chapters a day. Didn't do any yesterday, but I did 4 the day before. So I'm still on the arbitrary little schedule that I set myself. However, I really would like to get this finished by the end of the month. And I actually am not working until the 24th, which is another 10 days after today. And it'd be lovely if I could get it done in that time, but end of the month is the deadline I've set myself. And yeah, so I'm just gonna. So I've read chapter 6. I've done it. I don't know if I did it. Did I do it on here or did I do it privately? I can't remember. But yeah, chapter 6 is ready for me to do the read through, sign off on paper. So yeah, we shall see how this looks. Don't think anybody's watching, but that's allowed. That's fine. Where's the remote? What have I done with the remote? Oh, there it is. Ha! Stupid. No, just me watching myself. Ha! So, chapter 6. I'm just gonna. I've not really woken up yet, so that's nice. Yeah, so let's see what I can do with this. This chapter I quite like. I don't think there was much I needed to change, but we shall soon find out, shan't we? Again, compared to the chapter lengths for Empress, this is nothing. Incidentally, if anybody's interested in interacting with me, the QR code that I'm pointing to now has all my social media in it. It has links to my podcast. It also has links to my Discord, and there is a Discord server which you can just join, and when I press that button you'll hear that little noise, which means there's an audio channel running containing the audio from this. And if you want to come talk to me, literally drop in and have a chat, you can. Your voice will appear on the live stream, obviously, but anybody who wants to do that can. Please do that, I'm lonely. No, I'm not. Right. I should get started, really, shouldn't I? So, chapter 6, A Vision. Rebecca stood outside the staff entrance of the Viscount, shivering in the cold and smoking a roll-up. She checked her phone, hoping that Saywood would send her a text, preferably one saying that all was forgiven, although that was unlikely. She finished the cigarette, then walked back inside. As she went through the kitchen, she saw that Larry was frying some chicken and chips. There was usually so little food served here that it was not worth hiring a chef, so either she or Larry did the honours, or very occasionally, if it got busy, Larry's wife, usually with exceedingly bad grace. Rebecca walked through the kitchen door and into the bar. She was unsure why Larry had not called her back from a break early. There was a queue of 4 people waiting for drinks. "About bleeding time," said the first customer. It was one of the customers from Thursday night, the one who had brought his unimpressed wife with him. This time he was alone. "The usual, Jim?" she asked, having already reached for the pint glass. "Go on then," he said gruffly. She made her way through the rest of the queue until there was only one customer remaining. It was a familiar figure, wearing clothes altogether too classy for the Viscount. "Hello, Rebecca," he said with a smile. "Hello, Max the painter," she said, inwardly a little surprised and annoyed to see him. "Back so soon? I got a lot of work done on Thursday," he explained. "It's a little louder in here on a Saturday," she said. As if to illustrate a point, Jim's friends let out some raucous laughter as one of their number sat down. "I'm sure I'll be fine," said Max. "So what can I get for you?" "Same as last time, please." Rebecca remembered exactly what he had ordered, but she bluffed her ignorance. "Don't recall, sorry." Max pointed at the optics behind her. "Double Talisker on the rocks." Twice. "Oh yeah," feigned Rebecca. "Shall I charge you for both again?" "Please," said Max. He paid her, and she poured the first drink for him. He walked away with it and sat at the same table in the corner that he had last time. Once he was not looking, Rebecca rolled her eyes. Larry had delivered his culinary masterpiece to its eager recipient and was now back behind the bar. "Is that your pal from the other night?" asked Larry. "Are you generating me more regulars?" "Looks like it," Rebecca replied. "I'd give you a bonus if I could afford it," Larry said. "Maybe you could wear a lower cut top." Rebecca gave him an evil look. "There are laws against that sort of thing now, Larry." "Nothing bad about looking good for the opposite sex," said Larry grumpily, then went a bit red. I don't like the phrase opposite sex, and it's been bugging me for a while. I think I'm going to change it. "Nothing bad about looking good for the boys," said Larry grumpily, then went a bit red. "Sorry, no offence. How's your missus?" "Oh, I've just realised you can't see me. We can see me, but you can't see what I'm typing, which I normally put up on the screen. So let's just do that." "Mad at me," said Rebecca. "My fault. Been playing away from home?" "That's none of your bloody business, Larry," she snapped. All right, keep your hair on," he said. "I was just asking." Rebecca shook her head and felt her phone vibrate to notify that she received a text message. She pulled it eagerly from her pocket, hoping that it was from Saywood, but it was only her mother asking something about her younger brother's birthday. Disappointed, she thrust the phone back into her jeans. Other Saturday night regulars drifted in over the next couple of hours. A few people ordered food, so Rebecca ended up doing a stint in the kitchen over the fryer. Once she'd come back from delivering the items and collecting the used baskets, she rejoined Larry behind the bar. "It's been quite busy tonight," Rebecca commented. "Yeah," grunted Larry. "Another new face, too." He gestured towards a tall man sitting alone a couple of tables away from Max. He was in a pair of jeans and a sweatshirt and was drinking what looked like a spirit mixed with cola. Like Max, he did not seem to be interacting with anyone else in the pub. Max was sitting with a sketchbook in front of him, scribbling away with a pencil. He looked up at the bar and, realising that Rebecca was back, held up his empty whiskey glass. Rebecca nodded and poured another double for him, adding some ice. Not bothering with a tray, she walked through the semi-crowded bar area and deposited the drink at his table. Max smiled. "Do you remember what I asked you on Thursday?" Rebecca nodded, now wishing that she'd sent Larry over with Max's second drink. "I do," she said, trying to look neither pleased nor disgusted. "I just wanted to show you that I was serious," he said, and handed her the sketchbook. On it was a picture of Rebecca's head and shoulders, drawn in pencil. It was an amazing likeness, and for a few moments he was impressed. I'm going to lose that for a few moments. I'm just going to change it. We've just some post, that's early. I wonder if it's some Lego. That'd be exciting, wouldn't it? Right, hang on a second. It is my Lego, but it's a special order from Lego, so this is so sad. All of the base plates with a spaceship landing pads on them usually have these green and... I'm not sure that's right, you know. Never mind, yeah, they usually have these on them. So I ordered a load, and they've given me some extra bits, like some extra faces by the look of it. Just weird extra bits chucked in that I didn't order. Let me just check they've sent everything correctly. It's just to pep up the landing pads, so let me just check it's right. So 80 of those and 40 of those, and they've given me some extras. Lovely. Right. "I want to show you I was serious," he said, and handed her the sketchbook. On it was a picture of Rebecca's head and shoulders drawn in pencil. It was an amazing likeness. She was impressed, but kept her face neutral. "You've just done this?" "Yes," smiled Max. I don't know whether to be impressed or horrified, admitted Rebecca. I have to confess, I was hoping for impressed. I'm just going to do that instead. It was an amazing likeness, but she kept her face neutral, and that removes the repetition of the word impressed later on. You've just done this? Yes, smiled Max. I don't know whether to be impressed or horrified, admitted Rebecca. I have to confess, I was hoping for impressed. Oh, it's stunning, she said. Only thing is, you've been sitting all the way over here, so you haven't been able to see me properly tonight. She looked back down at the picture. You've got my mole, the tiny scar on my cheek. It's like you've memorised all the details of my face. Considering this is only the second time we've met rather than we have met. I find that a bit creepy. I'm keen to paint you properly, said Max, in my studio. I just wanted you to see what I can do. Imagine if I had paint and canvas at my disposal and just a couple of old pencils. Rebecca shook her head. The answer was no, still is. Don't bother me again. You can ask Larry if you want any more drinks. Looking slightly upset, Max put the sketch pad back into his bag. I am truly sorry. It was not my intention to offend or scare you. Please forgive me. With that, he opened his laptop and paid her no further attention. Frowning, Rebecca retreated to the bar. She stood next to Larry, and between them they surveyed the room. Are you okay? Asked Larry, gesturing towards Max. You need to serve him from now on, said Rebecca. He's done a drawing of me. It's the opposite of normal. Oh, said Larry with a smile. Is it any good? Too good, replied Rebecca. It's weirding me out, Larry. So like I said, I'm going to lose the so. As I said. Nope. As I said, if he wants anything else, you're serving him. All right then, Larry conceded. Rebecca scanned the people at the tables, and her eyes met the other new person in the room just for a second. He looked away from him before she did. Then stood up before approaching the bar. They're all staring at me now, she muttered to herself gloomily before the man arrived. Can I have a brandy and coke, love? He asked. The evening wore on. More customers arrived, and in the end Larry had to creep upstairs and beg his wife to do some cooking, which she did after a lengthy protest. The drinks were served quickly and in large volumes. Towards the end of the night, when trade finally started to ebb, Larry stood at the bar with a large grin on his face. Although it was not quite time to call last orders, Rebecca was starting to do the cleaning so that she could go home as quickly as possible once the final customer left. She had not heard from Saywood and wanted to get back, both to ensure that she was okay and check she still had a relationship to go home too. Larry was staring at the new customer. Watch him, he said quietly to Rebecca as she cleaned the bar. I could swear he spent the whole night watching your artist friend. Rebecca glanced up, and indeed the man did seem to be taking regular discreet glances 2 tables across to where the artist was deep at work on his laptop. See what you mean, Rebecca said a few minutes later. Just as she did so, Max stood up and headed for the bar. Larry intercepted him and took his order. As he did so, Rebecca glanced across and saw the new customer beckon discreetly to her. I'll be right back, she said to Larry. She approached the table. Is everything all right? She asked. Can you pretend to clean the table? Asked the man. I want to ask you what you know about the gentleman 2 tables across. Max, the artist? Yes, I need to talk to you about him, Rebecca, discreetly once the pub is closed. Can you talk to me outside? I'm going to say meet instead of talk to. Rebecca rolled her eyes. Every single one. No, I can't meet you outside. Her voice was slightly raised. The man shook his head. Shush, not so loud. You don't need to be by yourself. Bring your boss. Bring who you want. I just want to know what you know about him. Why? The man sipped his drink. I will explain outside. Please, it's important. Now go, he's coming back. I'll think about it, said Rebecca, running a cloth along the surface of the table before taking his empty glass and walking casually away. She made eye contact with Max as he returned to his table, but he was unusually stony-faced and did not smile. Smiled back. No, smile. She wasn't smiling at him, so he can't smile back. After last orders, both Max and the newcomer finished their drinks and left. Max departed a few minutes later than the tall man after glancing around and trying to catch Rebecca's eye. Once the final customer had gone and the front door was bolted, Larry took some bag of rubbish to throw in the bins in the backyard. Then he walked across before the gates closed. Before he did so, he looked into the street and noticed that someone who looked like Max was standing halfway between the gates and the customer entrance. He frowned and walked through to the rear door, by the kitchen. "Bex," he called softly, "can you come here a moment?" There was a pause, then aloud, "I'm busy." Larry shook his head and walked quickly through the kitchen and into the bar. "Forget that. Follow me a moment." Rebecca frowned. "Why?" "Just be quiet and follow me." Annoyed but slightly curious, Rebecca followed Larry through the kitchen and into the yard. "Now be quiet," whispered Larry, "and take a peek outside. But stay this side of the gate, to the left towards the saloon doors." "What do you see?" Rebecca looked where she was told to. Rebecca looked where she was told to. Rebecca looked where she was told. Lose the two. She could see Max standing there, his eyes searching around him. Her heart started to beat a little faster, and she returned to the yard. Larry closed the gates, locked them, and ushered Rebecca back into the kitchen, locking the door behind them. "Is that how I think it is?" Rebecca nodded. "Is he waiting for me?" "I don't know," said Larry, "but that was my first thought. Do you want me to call you a cab?" "I can't afford it." Larry shook his head. "I'm not a total git, you know. I want you home safe." I'm going to say safely. I knew that. "Going home safely. I'm more than happy to pay for a cab." Rebecca smiled. "Thank you, but no thank you. I'm going to make a phone call. I might be able to use this to build a bridge." Saywood was sitting on the sofa, still in a dressing gown, having fallen asleep, when the phone rang. She opened her eyes and glared down at it. The display said that it was 11:15 and that Rebecca was calling. She contemplated ignoring it, but it was unusual for her to call at this time. She let the phone ring a couple more times and swiped the screen to accept the call. "Yes," she said coldly. Hi, how you feeling?" she heard Rebecca ask. "I was asleep," said Saywood. I'm going to lose the feeling there. Just to avoid the repetition. "I was asleep," said Saywood. "If you're feeling okay, is there any chance you can walk me home from work? There's this strange guy who's been hanging around for a couple of days. Last time he said he wanted to paint me, and today did a pencil drawing of me. Larry says he's waiting outside. It's a bit scary, Say." Saywood replied immediately. "No worries, my headache is gone. Is Larry okay to let you wait inside?" "Yes," replied Rebecca. "Thanks, Say. Larry says to call just before you get here and he will open the back gate. You know where that is?" "Yes," said Saywood and ended the call. She ran to the bedroom, pulled on a pair of jeans, a t-shirt and a hoodie, and took the nearest coat. It was not until she left the flat and she was jogging down the flight of stairs that she realised that it was the new black leather coat that Rebecca had found for her. That was irritating. She'd been planning to give Rebecca a hard time on the walk back, and the choice of coat undermined that. I'm going to lose the already. It was a cold February night, and within a few minutes of leaving the housing estate, she wished that she had put on a scarf as well. There were a handful of people walking home, presumably from other pubs, and a few of them were quite tipsy or outright drunk. One pair of guys asked her back to their place for a coffee, and became quite insistent when she said no, so she ran around the corner to get away from them. As she approached the pub, she noticed a tall man in the shadows of the disused doorway. She wondered if he was the person that Rebecca had been talking about. He was in the darkness, though, and probably not visible from the front of the Viscount. Remembering her instructions, she called Rebecca's phone. Rebecca answered quickly. "Hello? I'll be there in a few seconds, babe," said Saywood, immediately wishing that she had not used the word babe, as she was still feeling cross. "Larry is unlocking the gate now," said Rebecca. "Let yourself straight in." Saywood ended the call and hoped that Larry was literally unlocking the gate at this moment. She had made the phone call later than she intended, due to being distracted by the man in the alcove. She passed the saloon door, and just to the right of it was another man, standing there as though he was waiting for someone. She walked past and glanced back. The man in the alcove was peering out, possibly at her, she was not sure. She looked away, focusing on the gate, and as she did so, she put her hand in her pocket and unconsciously gripped the stone necklace. She did not recall putting it in there, but she had no time to be surprised by its presence, because she was suddenly assaulted by images in her head, accompanied by a deep male voice. The images were blurry, and it seemed to be of Rebecca, semi-clothed from the point of view of a man with paint on his hands. He had one arm round her throat and was tearing at her lower clothes with the other. Rebecca's features kept shifting somewhat, but she looked terrified and was screaming and trying to fight back. The details of Rebecca's face and body were scarily accurate, and Saywood stumbled in shock, letting go of the stone. She almost shrieked, but had enough presence of mind to get to the gate, which mercifully opened as she twisted the handle. She almost fell into Larry, making him jump. "Where's Rebecca?" Saywood asked breathlessly. "Kitchen," said Larry. Saywood barged through the unlocked door and saw Rebecca. She rushed over to her and embraced her tightly. Rebecca almost fell backwards, but steadied herself with a hand on the kitchen table. "Take Unforgiven then," she said. Saywood looked at her, pleased to see that she was unhurt and smiling. "The man outside," she said breathlessly. "Well, one of them." "Them?" asked Larry. "There's two," Saywood said, rushing her words. "Two?" asked Larry and Rebecca practically simultaneously. "Yeah." "You're shaking," said Rebecca in disbelief. Larry stepped into the bar and came back with a tumbler containing an orange-brown liquid. "Brandy," he said, handing it to Saywood. "Looks like you need it, girl." Saywood took it from him, had a sip, and enjoyed the fiery sensation as it went down her throat. Larry, that's not a brandy glass," scolded Rebecca. Saywood smiled despite herself. "Two men," she continued after a few moments. One in an alcove opposite, tall, jeans and a coat. The other by the main door, medium height, well dressed. "I can't explain how I know at the moment, but one of them means to hurt you, Bex." "They sound like a new customer," said Larry. "Max by the doors and the other guy in the alcove. I still reckon the new one was watching Max for some reason." "He was," agreed Rebecca. "He wanted to talk to me after we closed. About Max." "Who's Max?" asked Saywood. "The one I told you about wants to paint me. The guy by the saloon entrance." Saywood took another sip from the brandy. "The one who wants to paint you. He must be the one." An image from her vision, or premonition, or whatever it was, flashed through her mind. He had paint on his hands and one arm around her throat. Saywood put the glass down. "Is he still there?" Larry looked a little shaken. "I don't know. Do you want me to call the police?" Saywood shook her head. "No. Can you check if he's still there?" "I can, but it won't prove anything," said Larry. He could be waiting around the corner." "True," said Saywood. She could touch the stone again. The thoughts and images were very strong when he'd been close. If she could sense him still with the help of the stone, then the chances were that he was still nearby. She put her hand towards her pocket, but did not immediately touch it, remembering Geraldine's warning. "Well, go and check then!" She barked at Larry, who immediately vanished through the kitchen door. They both heard him open the gate, close it again, and come back in. "He's not there," Larry confirmed. "OK then," Saywood breathed out. She moved her hand to the bottom of her pocket and gripped the stone. All at once voices filled her head. Mercifully there were no pictures this time. One voice was Rebecca. He was thinking about how great Saywood looked in a new coat. Another was Larry obsessing about watching the pair of them kiss. She looked at him with pity. But there was another voice, an angry voice. "Where is she? Where the hell is she?" I'm going to lose the repetition. Saywood let go of the stone again. "There's someone still out there." "There's someone out there still" would be better. "Someone out there still," she said. "How do you know?" asked Rebecca. "I'll explain when we get home," said Saywood. "I don't think either of us should be outside now. Larry, can you arrange us a taxi?" "Well, I did offer earlier," grumbled Larry, walking over to the telephone on the counter below the optics. "He offered you a taxi?" asked Saywood, sharply looking at Rebecca. "Yeah," said Rebecca with a half smile. "I'm sorry. I thought you coming to walk me home would give us a chance to talk." Larry put the phone down. "He'll be here in 5. I've asked him to come to the flat entrance to the flat." To the flat round the side. "Yeah. Thank you," said Rebecca. "He's a mate," said Larry. "I'll pick up the tab." There was a sudden loud banging at the saloon entrance. Larry ran through the bar and looked at the glass doors. He could see a man silhouetted in the glow from the street lights outside. "I think it's the guy who was watching Max," he hissed back at them. "What do you want me to do?" "Don't answer it," said Rebecca. Saywood looked over at her. Rebecca was usually unflappable, but right now she looked extremely nervous. Larry walked up to the door. "Piss off, mate," he yelled. "We're closed." There was another very loud knock. I need to talk to Rebecca. It's important. Saywood recognised it as the voice in her head from a few moments ago and realised it was not the same as the voice of Rebecca's assailant from her vision. She's gone home, shouted Larry. Now clear off or I'll call the law. That's the man who wanted to talk to me about Max, whispered Rebecca. Saywood nodded. I don't think he's the one that meant you harm. How do you know? Asked Rebecca. I'll explain when we get home, replied Saywood. Larry stepped back into the kitchen. I think he's gone. Come on, through the flat. He led them out of the kitchen through a door marked private and into a small cloakroom. He locked the door behind him. There was a flight of steps leading up to the flat. Larry stepped back into the kitchen. I think he's gone. Come on, through to the flat. He led them out of the kitchen through a door marked private and into a small cloakroom. He locked the pub entrance behind him. Next to it was a flight of steps leading up to the flat, and opposite that, an external door. He heard the sound of a car horn and unlocked it. He peered out, then smiled. It's the cab. He walked out, spoke to the driver, and then came back inside. One of you go to the passenger door, one of you get into the back. Text me. One of you go straight. One of you go to the passenger door, one of you in the back. Text me to let me know you're home safe. Okay, thanks, Larry, said Rebecca. Yeah, thanks, Larry, said Saywood sarcastically. I don't know how we'll ever repay you. Oh, wait. She turned round and kissed Rebecca deeply and passionately before Larry's astonished eyes, a kiss that was deliberate and way too long. That do for you, she said with a glint in her eye, before dragging a surprised and grinning Rebecca out from the flat and towards the car. In another car, parked a few metres back, a pair of eyes watched Saywood and Rebecca get into the taxi, which pulled away quickly. Starting the motor, Nathan Walsh released the handbrake and accelerated carefully after them. Dun, dun, dun. Right, happy with that. Let's run it through Grammarly, though. Bear with me. Is that opened yet? Is it thinking? What's it doing? Today would be nice. Oh, I don't want to display that. Language settings. British English. Oh, it's all right. Oh, hello. Yes. Well, I'm going out later today, and I didn't get any writing done yesterday, so I thought I'll try and get something done today. So now, I mean, I don't know how late I'll be back later. And then tomorrow, I'm catching up with you, but I'm assuming we'll do some writing in the bookshop, so that's fine. Right. I think I've just gone into Grammarly and found out how to change it to British English. So I'm now going to try. And no, why has it done that? Writing now. How do I get back to? Oh, bless you. Are you sure? Okay. Well, see how you feel, but I'm not busy. Oh, I am busy Sunday actually. Well, we could always do. Well, I'm talking to you Monday on the. Okay. Well, I'm thinking. I'm not doing much next week, so the only plans I've got for definite are Wednesday. Although I'm going up to meet a friend sort of Manchester area, so I'm toying with maybe going up Tuesday, so I don't have 5 hours in the car on one day. So thinking of going up Tuesday morning. So Tuesday and Wednesday I might not be free, but other days I am. So oh bless you. I'm sorry to hear that. Oh well. Well, we can do a virtual write-in if you like. We could do this. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to record the audio insert for the interview thing later. When are you planning to put it out, by the way, just so I have an idea? Because obviously I won't talk about it on my blog or anything or on the podcast until you've announced it. I don't know how far in advance you put stuff up. Also, bear in mind I work on aeroplanes around sick people all the time. I've got a fairly robust constitution. Why isn't that letting me? What if I click on there? Okay, that's better. Right, I think I've just found how to turn this onto British English, which is going to take out half of the errors it tries to correct. Which used to be on this panel that I'm looking at now. When you set goals, it used to probably by 28th of March. Okay. When do you? As I say, I don't want to announce anything until you've announced it on your social media. So, but yeah. And once you've put it out on your YouTube, would you have any objections if I played it out at some point during one of my streams? Maybe a week or so after. No, go ahead. Oh, fab, thank you. Right. Okay. Let's see how many errors this is telling me chapter 6 has got. Right, what overall score is it giving me first? 86. It normally gives me 81 at the start. Okay. Oh, bless you. Okay. The usual, Jim, she asked. Go on, then he said gruffly. He went through the rest of the queue and soon she was serving the final customer. It was a familiar figure. Okay. I don't even need that sentence, it's shit, so we should just lose that. No, I'm going to leave that as was, actually. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. No, 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 no. What are you doing? Stop it. Why don't you go in the best? Go to the bathroom. No, I'm fine with that. So let's download that. There we go. So we can Close that, open that, and that. Right, so all copy. Right then, that's chapter 6. Sendef. Let's just quickly move that into the edited chapters folder. And I need to get a little folder to put these in. So edited. It's the 14th today. And Grammarly. Okay, so I can go there. Right, what I'm going to do now is just the first. I'm not going to do this for too long, actually. I don't know what I'm doing later today. Hang on, let's just. Right, let's move that closer and open chapter 7. Now there might be a couple of little changes I need to make to this one based on my feedback, because basically the feedback is that Rebecca seems to accept the situation too quickly and easily. So I'm going to have a look at it and then I shall judge that. Okay, so let's go back to that view. This is a longer chapter. I think this is 12 pages. Oh, 12, which would be a very short chapter on emperors. I've just had a little thought. Do I like those fades? Let me just try changing that. So does that look better? Let's have a look. Yes, the cut rather than the fade looks better. Okay, so chapter 7, Avalanche 358. Sayward and Rebecca entered the flat, the flat, I think. A few minutes later, Sayward was careful to lock the door behind her before flopping down on the sofa. Rebecca poured some wine, and offered some poured herself a glass of, and offered some to Sayward, who shook her head. Rebecca sat down on the sofa next to her. "Thank you for coming to get me," she said quietly. "I know you were pissed off at me. You had every right to be." Sayward looked at her. "Wrong tense. Have every right to be." Rebecca nodded. Sayward relaxed her face and allowed herself a smile. "Did you see the look on Larry's face when I kissed you?" Rebecca burst out laughing. "Yeah, why did you do that?" Sayward withdrew the necklace from her pocket by the leather cord. "I will explain. To help me do that, I want you to get a book. Any book." Rebecca looked confused, but pulled a book out of her backpack. Sayward had expected it to be a textbook, but it was a novel. She had not seen Rebecca reading a novel in the 15 or so months they'd been seeing each other, and this one was a nice, expensive-looking hardback. "Now open it at a random page. Don't let me see the number." Frowning, Rebecca opened the book about 2/3 of the way through, flicked through a few more pages, and then settled on one. "Okay." Scan the page, pick a word. Not a name, just a normal word. Rebecca grinned in bewilderment and did as she was told. "Okay, what now?" "Now I will hold the stone part of my necklace." Sayward frowned. "I've not tried this, so I'm not totally sure it will work." Let's change that to I'm not totally sure that it will work. Sure, let's lose the that as well. She said quietly. "Think of the word in your head, followed by the number. Just those two things, over and over again." "I don't understand," said Rebecca. Just do it. Think of the word and the number over and over. Be careful not to move your lips. Okay, Rebecca started doing as she was told. Saywood touched the stone and heard some voices. She was certain that she knew who some of them were now. In amongst the voices was Rebecca, but she was too quiet to hear. Properly. I'm not getting it, she whispered. Shout it, Bex. Shout the word and the number in your head. I feel silly. Do it. Rebecca shook her head, feeling foolish. Saywood closed her eyes. She could sense the rhythm of Rebecca's thoughts, even if not the actual words. I can hear it, I think. Keep going. It's 6 syllables. Scream them at me. She opened her eyes and could see that Rebecca was concentrating, and all of a sudden the words came crashing into her consciousness. She could sense Rebecca shouting them even though her lips were not moving. Saywood shut her eyes. Avalanche 358. Rebecca's eyes opened wide, and Saywood knew that she'd stopped thinking the words. Instead she heard the words, bloody hell, how did you do that? Although Rebecca's lips were still unmoving. I'll tell you how I did that, said Saywood. Rebecca shook her head. Stop it, that's bloody creepy, she said out loud. Saywood let go of the stone and put it back in her pocket. I'm sorry, this is going to sound mental, but the stone is called a prelato. It allows me to amplify a skill that apparently I already have. Rebecca frowned, then looked at Saywood carefully. Have you been drinking? She eventually asked. Saywood ignored the comment. Do you remember I said this stone sparkled in the shop? Rebecca nodded. Well, it was with several other items like it. When a few of them are together, someone with my abilities can see a glow. The stronger the abilities, the stronger the glow. Rebecca glared at her. Sorry, it's going to sound mental, but the stone is called a prelato. It allows me to amplify a skill that apparently I already have. Rebecca frowned, then looked at Saywood carefully. Have you been drinking? She eventually asked. Saywood ignored the comment. Saywood ignored her. Do you remember that I said this stone sparkled in the shop? Rebecca nodded. Well, it was with several other light items like it. When a few of them are together, someone with my abilities, I'm going to italicise the abilities, can see a glow. The stronger the abilities, the stronger the glow. Rebecca glared at her face, a mixture of disbelief and annoyance. Then a thought crossed her mind and she frowned. I said that the man... Do you remember that I said the man in the shop was wearing sunglasses? Rebecca glared at her face a mixture of disbelief and annoyance. Then a thought crossed her mind and she frowned. If you remember... No, that's better. So the man in the shop was wearing sunglasses when he took your stone out of the display. You did. He recognised the fact that I could see. the glow. He recognised the fact that I could see the glow. He noticed my reaction and deliberately watched me afterwards. You did. He recognised the fact that I could see the glow. He noticed my reaction and someone followed me afterwards. Oh, hello. Perchance. Discus. Oh, Dicus Magnificus. That's a bit Monty Python, if you don't mind me saying. There's the moment about what's the character called? Oh, I thought it was a silly name like Silius Sodus or Biggus Dickus. What's funny about the name Biggus Dickus? I have a friend called Biggus Dickus. Sorry, it's just when I saw your handle, that's what I thought. That's it. That's what in consonant. Yes, that's the one. Yes, excellent. Ah, same wavelength then. Oh dear. You see, anyway, hello. Are you a writer type person? Is that why you are here, or how did you come across my humble little stream? He did. He recognised the fact that I could see the glow. He noticed my reaction and followed me afterwards. But I love seeing people write. Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, I'm in a editing phase now, so this is actually the 5th draft of something that I've been working on for a very long time, although I haven't touched it for 2 years. So a load of people read it and I got some good feedback, and then did nothing with it. So what I'm doing now is hopefully the last draft, and I'm just making some quite small adjustments, to be fair, to tie in with the feedback that I got. So one of the feedbacks that I got is somebody just tells the painful face. It's not too bad, actually. My least favourite edit. So the way I used to write was I'd write the whole first draft and it would fall out of my head, and yeah. And then that second draft, that first edit, was always hell because it's effectively a big tidy up. But a friend of mine has talked me into doing a write edit model, which means I'll write a chapter and then edit it straight away just to tidy it up and get it into a better state. And I don't find the editing quite so painful now. I tend to do the writing in coffee shops where I don't stream. This isn't really fair on people around you don't want to be on a live stream. But when I do the editing, this bit, I tend to do it on here. So yes, I'm just making some slight. Excellent. Do you write your poems on? Oh, I'll hang on. I'll find you on here, and I will follow you. Not that I get a chance to watch very often, but I will have a look. Let's have a look. Oh. When you send your next message, it will appear on my phone and I can follow you from that, because my phone it turned itself off, so I didn't actually. So the messages I can see on the screen there are not on my actual phone. Hang on. Yeah. So you did. He recognised the fact I could see the glow. He noticed my reaction and someone followed me afterwards. Last night at the supermarket, another person from the charity shop contacted. It's a bit weird. Last night at the supermarket, another person from the charity shop contacted me to see if their suspicions were right. She grabbed my hand deliberately. Apparently they can... She grabbed my hand deliberately. Apparently they can... I don't really understand it, but she grabbed my hand. She used physical touch to confirm. So this is one of the bits I needed to rewrite. Just apparently Rebecca takes or believes what she's told too easily. Right, let's just reread that because that is quite different. You did. He recognised the fact that I could see the glow. He noticed my reaction and someone followed me afterwards. Last night at the supermarket, another person from the charity shop contacted me to see if their suspicions were right. Rebecca still looked unsure. How'd they go about doing that? Saywood frowned. I don't really understand it, but she grabbed my hand. Grabbed my hand. She used physical touch to confirm contact, I'm going to say. To confirm that I have these abilities, or something. Rebecca shook her head. How did you know what the word and numbers were? I just told you, and I don't believe you. So we shook it up. I can't help that, but that's why I kissed you in front of Larry. He was thinking about how much he'd like to see us do that. Rebecca grinned despite herself. He's an old perv. Her expression softened. Assume that I believe you, that what you did was not some kind of clever trick. Is there anything else you can do? Right, that's better. Rebecca, he's an old perv. Her expression softened. Assume that I believe you, that what you did was not just... wasn't... just a clever trick. Is there anything else? Rebecca grinned despite herself. He's not letting me do the whole thing again, actually. Rebecca glared at her with her face a mixture of disbelief and annoyance. Then a thought crossed her mind and she frowned. If you remember, I said the man in the shop was wearing sunglasses when he took your stone out of the display. You did. He recognised the fact that I could see the glow. He noticed my reaction and someone followed me afterwards. Last night at the supermarket, another person from the charity shop contacted me to see if their suspicions were right. Rebecca still looked unsure. How would they go about doing that? Saywood frowned. I don't really understand it, but she grabbed my hand. She used physical contact to confirm that I have these abilities, or something. Rebecca shook her head. How do you know what the words and numbers were? I just told you, and I don't believe you. Saywood shook her head. I can't help that, but that's why I kissed you in front of Larry. He was thinking about how much he'd like to see us do that. She finished. This was good. I can't help that. That's why I kissed you in front of Larry. He was thinking about how much he'd like to see us do that, and I thought it would. Saywood shook her head. I can't help that, but that's why I kissed you in front of Larry. He was thinking about how much he'd like to see us do that, and I thought it would be funny. She finished, worrying that it sounded lame. This made Rebecca grin despite herself. He's an old perv. Her expression softened. Assuming that I believe you, that what you did wasn't just a clever trick. She stopped, feeling gullible and foolish. Foolish and gullible. What else can you do? Saywood shook her head. Just what I showed you. I can sense what people are thinking. Eventually, I may be able to do it without the stone. Rebecca looked down. I don't think I'd like that. No. Well, yesterday whilst at work, someone visited me here to explain all of this. They can help teach me what I need to know to get better at it, or I can be taught to switch the talent off, or if they think I might be dangerous, they can remove it from me. Let's use the word forcibly. That might be for the best, said Rebecca. What have you decided? I haven't, admitted Saywood. Rebecca looked back up. You said... You said Max wanted to hurt me. That might be for the best, said Rebecca. What have you decided? I haven't, admitted Saywood. Rebecca looked up. You said Max wanted to hurt me. Are you saying he heard his thoughts? Not just heard. I could see what he was thinking, and it was about hurting you. She paused, closing her eyes. Please don't remember any more. It was horrible. The image rushed back into her mind. He had paint on his hands and one arm around her throat. Saywood shook her head but said nothing. Rebecca looked angry. He just said he wanted to paint me. Don't let him anywhere near you. He is vile. He's vile, and he is capable of doing the things I saw. Her brain processed the images one more time, and Saywood finally understood what she finally realised. What she'd seen had been a composite image. Let's change that. So, don't let him anywhere near you. He is vile, and he is capable of doing the things I saw. Let's put Saywood. Don't let him anywhere near you. He's vile, and he is capable of doing the things I saw. Saywood's brain processed the images again one more time, and she finally realised why the vision had been blurry in places. What she'd seen had been a composite image. It had been Rebecca in her mind, but not only her. The picture had been shifting, and now that Saywood was able to think about it, she realised there were other girls in there as well. Part of what she'd seen was an anticipation of the pleasure derived from her to come, but other parts were memories. Shit, she said, as realisation dawned. He's done this before. Saywood had trouble sleeping that night. Once they finished talking, it was well past, I should say gone. It was gone, 1 o'clock. After that, Saywood sat on the sofa brooding. She was not sure what she ought to do. Going to the police was probably pointless. Offering to paint Rebecca was rather strange but not illegal. And everything else she knew was information obtained in a way she could not explain. Not to the police, anyway. Her mind kept going back to the conversation she'd had with Geraldine. She'd indicated that she wanted nothing to do with this institute and that the old woman was a part of, but it was more important for Rebecca to be safe. That probably meant another visit to this and Tat. She walked to the bedroom and snuggled up behind Rebecca. As she held onto Rebecca's hand, she felt a curl around hers. Rebecca was unable to sleep either. Are we okay, Say? Whispered Rebecca for a few moments. Saywood squeezed her gently. I think so, Beck, she said softly. I hope so. Her feelings of unease would not go away. Max Sosa was out there somewhere, and Saywood doubted that he would just give up and move on. I had a feeling. He would not. Her feelings of unease would not go away. Max Sosa was out there somewhere, and Saywood had a feeling he would not give up and move on. That's better. Saywood woke late that Sunday morning. Saywood woke late this morning. Rebecca managed to climb out of bed without disturbing her, which was no mean feat because thanks to signs room meant climbing over a sleeping body to get to the door. Saywood glanced at the phone, which was charging next to the pillow. It was 10:30. She rolled onto her back and drummed her fingers on top of the duvet in frustration. All things considered, she had little choice. She had to get some help to keep Rebecca safe, and that meant approaching the Sutherland Institute less than a day after she swore to herself that she would not. Saywood sat up and pushed the duvet to one side. She swung her long legs to the floor and stood up, taking a dressing gown from the peg on the back of the door. She walked through into the living room to find Rebecca channel hopping on the television. Sleep all right? She asked. Rebecca muted the television. Sound to remove the repetition of television. Muted the sound. Put the remote down next to her and shook her head. No, you? Not really, Saywood said. I'm going to walk you home every night from now on. And I think if we could afford it, we should try and get a cab. We should try and get a cab. You should. You should try and get a cab sometimes as well. I think I ought to change jobs, admitted Rebecca. Saywood nodded. I'm going to go to this and Tat and ask for some advice once we've had breakfast, she said. You're welcome to come with me. Or you can stay here, but bolt and chain the door. Rebecca smiled. I've got an estate. Rebecca shook her head. Shook her head rather than smiled. Rebecca shook her head. I've got an essay to write, she said. The one I want you to proofread. I can get on with that if you don't mind. That's fine, said Saywood. Just lock the door and call me or the police if you see or hear anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. Okay. Clad in a leather coat, jeans, backpack, scarf and bobble hat, Saywood walked quickly through Leicester city centre. After her late breakfast, she had tried to find information about Max Sosi on the internet, but had discovered nothing. She had also searched for information on the Sutherland Institute. Its website told her it was a large charitable organisation that had been running since the late 1700s. Given what she knew, or thought she knew, she suspected that this was a cover story. There were a couple of things she wanted to ask Geraldine when she got to the shop. Was anything she could do to protect herself? Was there anything she could do to protect herself and Rebecca from this Max Sosi? Let's lose the this. Could she be trained to limit what... And could she be trained to limit what the Pilato allowed her to see? The stone was in her pocket. She pulled it out, unbuttoned the collar of the jacket and put the leather string around her head, dropping it underneath her clothes so it swung there in contact with her skin. Immediately the sounds that she could hear were overlaid with thoughts of the people around her. There was a lady on the opposite side of the road dragging her daughter along with an inner monologue complaining about how much clothes cost for the kid and how quickly she outgrew them. She walked past an older gentleman on a bench who was acutely aware that he was admiring the tightness of her jeans. She grimaced, but there was nothing unpleasant or... Let's do that again. She walked past an older gentleman on a bench who was acutely aware that he was admiring the tightness of her jeans. She grimaced. There was nothing threatening coming from anyone. I might italicise the threatening. In fact, a couple of stray thoughts she picked up made her laugh. She walked past an Indian teen who was sitting alone on a bench. The girl looked very thin in the face and was wearing a summer coat that was no use against the cold. This cold. Her thoughts were telling her that she was worthless, that nobody would miss her if she killed herself. It was hard not to react to that, so Saywood sat down at the end of the bench pretending to flick through some apps on her phone. The girl was imagining the walk to the railway station and onto the platform. There, she waited until a fast train went past that was not stopping and walked to the edge. Below the self-destructive narrative, Saywood could also sense hunger. This girl could not be the girl. She could not be more than... The girl could not be more than 15. There was the occasional image of home, so she was not homeless, but she was not eating. So she's not homeless, but she was not eating properly. She could see the girl's mother worked hard and sometimes did not eat, so that her daughter could. The girl, who was called Kavi, was a mess of fear, pain, hunger, and misery. A pair of girls who were dressed as though they were coming home from a night out walked past, and Kavi's narrative shifted. For a moment, seeing the girls caused what seemed like pangs of jealousy, but Saywood quickly realised their interpretation was slightly off. Kavi was attracted to the dark hair of the two girls, but a moment later this morphed into denial. You can't, the inner voice snapped. It's unnatural. Mum would disown you. This was followed by such deep despair that Saywood could bear it no longer. The girl was mentally back on the platform and the fast train was approaching. As Kavi stepped from the platform in front of the moving vehicle, Saywood pulled the necklace out from her shirt so that it was no longer in contact with the skin. She took a deep breath and took a sideways glance at the girl. Are you okay? She asked. Kavi ignored her. It was somewhat annoying for Saywood that she had become sidetracked from a visit to the charity shop, but did not feel right to leave the girl in this state of despair. She spoke again. You look hungry, said Saywood, looking around and seeing a cafe on the other side of the road. Let me buy you a drink or something to eat. And something to eat. The girl looked at her and frowned. Why? Her accent was a hybrid of India and Leicestershire. Because you look cold and hungry and miserable and I can't just walk away from that. The girl looked unsure. Please, I will feel better if I see you drinking something warm and have a bite to eat. Kavi looked at her with unfeeling eyes. I suppose. Saywood smiled. Come on then. She almost called the girl by her name, then realised that she had not asked it. She did not want to have to explain that. What's your name? She asked. Kavya, said the girl. Kavi. A few minutes later, Kavi and Saywood were sitting at a small table in the cafe. Kavi was wolfing down a sausage and egg sandwich, so much so that Saywood ended up buying her a second one. She considered touching the Pilato again to see if what she had done had improved the girl's mindset at all, but then decided this was not a good idea. What if she was still feeling suicidal? Admittedly, Cavi did now have a smirk on her face. They had introduced themselves, and Cavi had told her about a mum who had 2 jobs but still enough money to live, I'm just going to say. And Cavi told her about a mum who had 2 jobs but still not enough money for them both to live. Saywood ended up buying Cavi a second coffee to take with her. Admittedly, Cavi did now have a smirk on her face. They did introduce themselves, and Cavi had told her about her mum who had 2 jobs but not enough money for them both to live. Hang on. Admittedly, Cavi did now have a smirk on her face. They did introduce themselves, and Cavi had told her about her mum who had 2 jobs but not enough money for them both to live properly. Oh, wrong button. Oop, something's just happened. Admittedly, oh, you don't want that view, that looks a bit weird. Admittedly, Cavi did now have a smirk on. Had. Admittedly, Cavi now had a smirk on her face. They'd introduced themselves, and Cavi told her about a mum who had 2 jobs but not enough money for them both to live properly. Saywood ended up buying Cavi a second coffee to take away with her. It was a small thing, but Saywood was convinced the girl was in her best place and she prepared to leave. Take care of yourself, she said to Cavi as they parted. Cavi looked genuinely grateful. Thank you, she said, and held her hand out, shivering slightly. Saywood was about to put her gloves on, but she took the hand and shook it. As the hands touched, she was aware of a strange sensation. Her hand felt almost magnetically attracted to the girl's. Saywood completed the handshake and moved her hand, conscious of not looking as though she was trying to snatch it away. Did this mean what she thought it meant? Had Cavi picked up on it too? Going to lose that because that gets picked up on later. See that again. Cavi looked genuinely grateful. Thank you, she said, and held her hand out, shivering slightly. Saywood was just about to put her gloves back on, but she took the hand and shook it. As the hands touched, she was aware of a strange sensation. Her hand felt almost magnetically attracted to the girl's. Saywood completed the handshake and moved her hand, conscious not looking as though she was trying to snatch it away. Had Cavi noticed anything? Apparently not, as... Actually, that should be the same... Oh, no. But not as Cavi as her facial expression did not change, and she let go and started to walk away, cursing to herself. Saywood called out to her. Let's do that again. Cavi looked genuinely grateful. Thank you, she said, and held her hand out. Cavi looked genuinely grateful. Thank you, she said, and held out her hand, shivering slightly. Saywood was about to put her gloves back on, but she took the hand and shook it. As their hands touched, she was aware as they... As they touched, she was aware of a strange sensation. Her hand was magnetically attracted to the girl's. Saywood completed the handshake and moved her hand, conscious of not looking as though she was trying to snatch it away. Had Cavi noticed anything? Apparently not, as her facial expression did not change. She let go and started to walk away. Cursing to herself, Saywood called out to her, Cavi, I want to do one other thing for you. I'm going to the charity shop around the corner. Let's see if we can find you a coat that keeps you warm. Cavi turned. I couldn't. Thanks, but Saywood shook head. I didn't say I was giving you a choice, madam. Come with me now. Without hesitation, Cavi followed around the corner. Now, again, I tried to change that earlier when I was looking at this. I have looked at this the other day, and I did a Cavi, I suppose, but one of the things I want to establish is that every now and then Saywood can basically influence and make people do things against their will. So naturally, Cavi would have argued there. She went, yeah, okay, then suddenly, for no reason. So that's just kind of the beginning of that, I think. Before the coffee gets cold. When Saywood, reluctantly followed by Cavi, entered This and Tat a few minutes later, there were a handful of customers already inside. Saywood marched up to the payment counter, pleased to see that the objects in the display cabinet were still shimmering, at least from her perspective, and they seemed to have... They seemed to have more of a glow now than they did last time. Cavi followed her and gasped when she saw the objects beneath the counter. Saywood met the eye of the Indian man behind the till. It was the same man from a couple of days ago, and spoke. Is Geraldine here? I need to speak to her. She looked round to Cavi. Have a look round. Find a nice, warm, thick coat. Two women were standing by the counter. One was deep in conversation with the man who had sold her the Pilato. A woman of medium height in her late 20s and wearing 1950s inspired clothing. The other was tall and thin, wearing a long, modest skirt and a covering that completely hid her face. She was also wearing an ornate mask with a fine mesh covering the eye sockets so that you could not even see her eyes. Gloves covered her thin hands. The shorter of the two women looked across to Saywood, then held out a hand. Hello, Saywood. I'm Isabel, said the woman. Saywood took her hand, but when she tried to shake it, it would not move. It was like holding the cold hand of a marble statue. Again, she felt that weird magnetic pull. Isabel held on to her a few moments longer, then, staring into her eyes, let go. A calculated look crossed her face, and she nodded and walked away with the masked lady into the room at the back. A moment later, Geraldine appeared. She raised her eyebrows, and she saw Saywood. That's a bit too sudden. I need to make... That's better. Frowning, Saywood walked over to Cavi and started through the jumbled clothing racks with her in an attempt to find a coat. 5 minutes later, Geraldine appeared. She raised her eyebrows when she saw Saywood. I didn't expect to see you so soon, she said. I didn't expect to be here so soon, Saywood replied. Have I just been assessed? Geraldine smiled and looked across to Isabel, who had stepped back out from the storeroom. She caught her eye and nodded. You are correct, said Geraldine. And? Did I pass? Are the Pilato under the counter still glowing? Saywood looked down at the objects, which continued to shimmer. Yes, she said. Then you have your answer, said Geraldine. What can I do for you? Saywood gestured over to Cavi, who was looking through the coats with an awed look on her face. I tried wearing the Pilato as I walked here. That was a... Saywood gestured over to Cavi, who was looking through the coats with an awed look on her face. Through some coats with an awed look on her face. I tried wearing the Pilato as I walked here. This girl, Cavi, needed some help. That was a foolish thing to do. What if Isabel decided you were dangerous and you had to and that you had to have your ability censored? Saywood was about to protest, but Geraldine continued. I don't suppose it matters. She's declared you safe. Had she not done so, it would have hurt when she censored you. Geraldine looked over to Saywood, who was watching Cavi. It should not have been fatal, though, this early on. Saywood shook her head. Whatever. I think that girl, Cavi, may be another one of us. She grimaced momentarily. She did not understand what being She did not really understand what being one of us entailed. What being one of us entailed. Geraldine nodded. We will take care of it. I sense you have another reason for being here. What can I do for you? Can we talk? Follow me. Saywood called across the shop. I'm just talking to my friend, Cavi. The girl weighed back and continued looking through the clothes. Isabel watched her thoughtfully. They sat in the small room at the back of the shop, which doubled up as a storeroom, cloakroom and canteen. Saywood had expected the masked lady to be in here since she had not seen her leave. Come out. There was a door leading out to the service yard behind the shop, so Saywood assumed that she must have gone outside. There was a door leading to the service yard behind the shop, so Saywood assumed that she must have gone outside. Geraldine had boiled the kettle and made them both a cup of tea. Rebecca, my girlfriend, was freaked out by a guy who was giving her too much attention last night at work, said Saywood. She works at a pub, so I went there to walk her home. As I walked past the man in question, I'm going to say, just to use the repetition of the word guy. As I walked past the man in question, I accidentally touched a prelato. The images in his head were horrendous. He appeared to be thinking about trying to rape her, and there were other women in the vision too. What could it mean? What does it mean? Was it a memory, an intention of... Was it his memory, his intention, his fantasy? Was it his memory? What does it mean? Was it his memory, his intention, his fantasy? It could have been any of those. Can you learn to tell? Geraldine shook her head. Only if you know the person. Frankly, it sounds like you don't want to know this man. I swore to myself that I wouldn't ask for your help, muttered Saywood under a breath before looking back up at Geraldine. But I'm scared that Rebecca isn't safe. There's not much we can do, said Geraldine. If you can find him, we could check him out. Do you have a name, an address? Saywood nodded. There's a name. Max Sosi. Apparently he's an artist. Geraldine almost choked on a tea. Max Sosi. No, it says serious. Are you sure? Yes. OK, then I will pass that on, said Geraldine. There was once a Max Sosi. Let's use the once. There was a Max Sosi that was one of... There was a Max Sosi that was one of us. He was an artist too, and he was the closest we ever came to having a Dark Lord. He was very powerful. He learned to slow the passage of time so much that he was practically immortal. He managed to hide from us for decades and killed any of us that he came across to protect his secret. The Institute were forced to execute him. When? In the late 1800s, a long time ago. It's probably just a coincidence with a name, but if you find out anything else, let us know straight away. If this is our Max Sosi, he is a very dangerous man. That isn't very reassuring, stated Saywood, but OK. She took another sip from her tea. I always came to ask for help controlling what I can see with the prelato. It can be a little overpowering. I want to be able to moderate what I can hear and be more selective about what I actively listen to, like you said before. I also said you could transmit as well as receive. At the very least, you can push your thoughts into the heads of others. And if you get strong enough, you could even become what we call a pilot. Saywood grimaced. Also, you can transmit as well as receive. At the very least, you can push your thoughts into the heads of others. And if you get strong enough and with the appropriate training, you could even become what we call a pilot. Saywood grimaced. I've seen something like that on the X-Files. Not for me. Not for me. She looked across to Geraldine. I want to learn to control what I receive and not transmit. I'm not sure you can do one and not the other. I can choose to try. Geraldine nodded. You can indeed. She paused. I will set the wheels in motion. Are you okay for us to contact you at home? Yes, said Saywood. That's fine. There was a shriek and a thud from the shop floor. Geraldine stood up and stepped through the doorway. Saywood followed her and looked around. Cavi was on the floor and Isabel was standing over her. Saywood tried to go to her side, but Geraldine pulled her away. Come out the back. Come into the stockroom, now, she commanded. Saywood shook her head, but stayed by the counter. What's happened? You were right. The girl did have potential, but she would have been dangerous. Her mind was too full of anger. She has been censored. Geraldine looked down. I'm sorry. What? Exclaimed Saywood. She looked furious. You've done it already. You've passed judgment. Geraldine nodded. I'm sorry, she repeated. Saywood shook her head. She's depressed, she said fiercely, gesturing to the girl lying on the floor. I saw suicidal thoughts. I brought her here because I thought we could help her. Geraldine pursed her lips. We cannot risk another Maximilian Cecilius. If Isabel decided that there was even a tiny risk associated with your friend, then she did the right thing. Saywood stormed over to Cavi. She sat up. What happened? Asked the girl. Saywood felt annoyed at the lie she was about to tell. I think I gave you too much food earlier, she said. I'm sure you'll be okay. Isabel made eye contact, nodded, and stood up. You can take her home now, she said coldly before walking away. Thanks for nothing, reported Saywood. She offered Cavi a hand and helped her up. Are you feeling okay? Cavi nodded. Did you find a coat? I can't decide between two, said Cavi, or some shoes instead. They're the same price. Cavi looked down. She did not notice that Cavi's footwear was falling apart. Geraldine handed a carrier bag to Saywood. She can have them, she said. Thanks, said Saywood, without making eye contact. She put the two coats into the bag. Which shoes do you want? Cavi had set two pairs aside. These fit. I can't decide. One was a pair of bright green designer trainers with a suitably expensive price label. She can have both of these too, said Saywood, and glared back at Geraldine and Isabel. Can't she? Geraldine nodded. Outside the shop, Cavi thanked Saywood. The girl seemed to have perked up, but there was still an underlying melancholy about her that Saywood found deeply disturbing. Her instinct was to walk Cavi home and find out where she lived, but she knew that she could not try and help someone every time she used the Prelato. She said goodbye after giving Cavi £10 to buy some food. She wanted to tell her that being attracted to girls was fine, that she was happily... I'm going to lose that bit. Do I want to lose that bit? She said goodbye after giving Cavi £10 to buy some food, then walked home feeling wretched and wondering if she had helped. She ambled back to the housing estate and up the 4 flights of steps to the flat. Rebecca had bolted the door as instructed, so she had to knock to get in. As soon as she entered, she could see from the look on Rebecca's face that something was wrong. She was clutching an envelope that had Rebecca written on it, with no address. This came through the door about half an hour, she said. It's from the guy that was hiding in the alcove last night. He must have followed us home. The tension had been building her since the letter had arrived broke, and she burst into tears. Saywood angrily slammed the door behind her, pulled the bolts across, put on the chain, and then turned and hugged Rebecca gently, stroking her back as she cried into her shoulder. Yeah, that's all right. That's fine. A couple of minor alterations again, but let me just have a look at my feedback just to make sure there's no opportunities to squeeze anything else in there. I've done that, but I'll leave a note. So, hang on. The notes I've got are drops and hints about Rebecca liking guys. I've done that once. I will try and do it one more time. Should I know about the Institute earlier? Also, is it secret or not? What is the cover story of the Institute? That's done. That is done. Remove water dripping scene. That's later. What is Sosie up to in the meantime? Someone feeding him information. No, I don't want to revisit Sosie. That's deliberate, so I'll lose that one. Why does Dawn not have a motorbike? That's for later. Add about walking past this and tat. I'm not sure that's that in relation to, so I shall leave that. Chapter 4, page 39. Chapter 4, more coffee. Let me just have a look about... I don't know. Chapter 4. I missed that. No, I don't think that. Exclamation marks after everything Bex says, chapter 5. Let's have a look at that. Because I do take exclamation marks out because I don't really like them. Let's just have a peek. Okay, that's good. Good, so that's dealt with. So yeah, that's dealt with. Sorry, I'm just chapter 8. That's not I've done yet. That's so all those are for later. Okay, so I'm up to date with the feedback. I've definitely made people a little more cynical about the weird shit that they get told in the chapter. So I think that will do me. So I don't know. I think someone else is watching. I don't know if it's still Dickus Magnificus or somebody else. As I say, I will try and find, if you stream, I will try and find you if you do writing poems on a stream, which is what maybe I misunderstood. But yeah, that's what I understood you to be saying. So I will try and have a look. Let's see if I can find you. Let's use this device, this computer, to do that. Let me have a look. Search and let's
Uno momento.
oh no, don't want that. Right. Oh, I can't find you. Let's just have a look. Have I spelt it right? Oh, okay. Let me just go to my channel, see if the stream chat is there. Oh, there you are. Okay, I've followed you. I don't know if you're still here, but I have. Right, that'll do me for now. I don't know what I'm doing for the rest of I do know what I'm doing at some point today. I think I'm going to put my little yellow studs onto the my little Lego studs onto the base plate. Okay, thank you to everyone who watched and interacted. That's me. Oh, I need to get onto another screen so I can see what I'm doing now. I might do another stream later. I really want to get chapter 7 that I've just read, chapter 6, whichever one I've just read. I would like to get that signed off as a minimum today. But I think that's probably achievable later on. We shall see. Take care. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.